Hang on just a second here. It might be on my end. Let me. All right, I'm gonna try again here. I guess I'm not.
I have to tell you, it's great to be back. It's great to have my feet on the ground. It's great to see my new family. Spend that many days together in the same bunkhouse with a bunch of these guys here. You get to know them really well. I get to know you really well too. And it's just a great blessing to be back. We look forward to sharing some things with you. We want to encourage you to come on in. Let's open up our time of worship and praise to the Lord. And we'll be singing a song that is dear to our hearts. God is a mighty God, a loving God, and He did what it took to bring salvation to each of us. Let's stand together as we sing. Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, kindness of a Savior. The hope of nations.
Good morning. I'm glad to be back. You know, I really am. I tell you what, we've been gone in Mexico for a week, and I mean, a lot of neat things, eye-opening things, and in a whole different culture. But it's good to be back with family, and we're excited. In just a little bit, the Mexico Missions team is going to be sharing with you a lot of pictures, and there are thousands of pictures taken. We're not going to show you all of them. We've got a lot of testimonies to share with you. It's so neat to see what God has done in our hearts. But I'll tell you what, I come back and wow, I'll tell you what, I really do want to call us to prayer because, if you aren't sensing it, we have so many people in our congregation right now that are dealing with sicknesses and some serious things. Obviously the passing of Loretta Anspaugh this past week, that was just totally out of being expected of all the situations. When I left that I was kind of concerned about. Loretta wasn't on the radar. But I'll tell you what, we had such a wonderful memorial service yesterday for her. And the testimonies that were given of her life and her faith. We have Loretta. I just was writing some down, and I know I'm going to forget some, but I talked to Gene Carroll this morning. He's going to have total knee replacement tomorrow. So if you're going to be praying for him. Also, some of you may have heard that he fell and landed on his elbow again. He ultimately said that they said there's no damage that has been done. He's just real sore. They expect it to be back totally to normal. I talked to Glenn Paw this morning. Helen is not doing well. In fact, she hasn't eaten for the past couple of days, and she was not responsive all night. And so they're calling hospice in for her. Saw Clay and Helen yesterday. Helen, she was just really sore. She just had a really bad day yesterday. We were just thankful for how the surgeries went, but the difficulties that both of them going through, Joanne Price and others. Folks, we need to pray. We have Kathy Conley and her daughter Rhonda Heth as well that are going through physical things. So just to start us out, I'm gonna ask you to pray with me, and I'm gonna give you maybe we call these prayer requests out, and sometimes we get the request and we think we're gonna pray for them later. We may not get to that, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to pray to yourselves, and I want to just bring us together as a church family to pray for these. So take a few moments to pray. Father God, we just come to you as a church family with our hearts united because we have a love for one another. Whenever one is struggling or hurting, Father, it affects our whole body. And right now, it just seems that we are being barraged by people dealing with so many things in their lives. But I thank you, God, that you are our Lord, you are our Savior, you are our hope. And none of this is taking you by surprise. It might, be causing our heads to spin, but Father, for you, you have a purpose and a reason, specifically for each of these individuals and what they're going through, and even for us then as a church family. And we just bond together in our faith and our trust in you to take care of these ones that we love and we care for. I pray right now for Glenn. Father, I know he was just so torn up this morning as we talked, and his faith is in you, and so I pray that we would be strong, Lord, that you would give him peace, to walk this path that they are on right now. I pray for Gene Carroll as well, and the anxieties, a little bit about going into this major surgery. And I pray that you might just use the doctors, Father, to, for this to just be so routine. And he's been battling for so many years with the things of his elbows and other things. I pray for just this encouragement to him that this would go well, Lord, and help Edith to be there for him and to strengthen her even as she is struggling with the physical things. We pray for our sister Joanne. We're so thankful, Lord, that with her fall that she isn't having to have any major surgery to repair her hip, but you know that she's sore, and we thank you that she's getting better and is able to get home. We continue to pray for Clay and for Helen, and Father, Helen was in a lot of pain from her open heart surgery yesterday, and we're thankful they're home, but God, they need our prayers, they need our encouragement. So lead us, and to send those cards or to make that phone call, or to just stop in the middle of our day and to lift them up in prayer before you. And I just pray that you would just continue to bring about the healing in their life. I pray for our sister Kathy Conley, and that she is, got the news of her kidneys and how that they are beginning to shut down. And God, I pray that you will give the wisdom there to know to do what to do and what to not to do. Her daughter is there with her. Her daughter is going out her heart right now as well. And for us, it just seems like humanly a difficult situation, but God, for you, you're working on so many different levels in their lives and ours. And again, help us to be able to reach out to them and to be the hands and feet of Christ to them. And God, we just, as a church family, we come to you and we turn to you and we ask you to just bind us together, Lord. As God, you know that Satan uses these physical things to cause discouragement in our life. But I pray that what he means for disaster might turn to glory, Lord. Thank you. In my son's name we pray. Amen. All right. The only announcement I want to emphasize to you is Easter is coming up in 3 weeks, I believe. And again, on that Sunday, we're going to be doing some things just a little bit different. We aren't going to be having ABF, but we're going to be having an Easter breakfast. And I believe that breakfast is going to be at 9 o'clock from 9 till 10. And at 10 o'clock, we're going to have just a little bit longer service, more worship music. We have a choir that's been practicing and putting together about 5 or 6 songs. And we're kind of excited for that celebration. So that's going to be on Easter. And then we are going to have a Good Friday service this year. I'm not positive what that's going to be. We've had a service of meditation in the past, and we've actually done that for about 20 years. We're looking to do something a little bit different. We are going to have something on Good Friday. Probably by next Sunday, I've been working on some special things, unique things for that. And if they come together, we'll go with that. But you'll know by next week what we're going to be doing. So, are there any other announcements? Again, I just got back late Friday night, 12 o'clock. I got to bed by 1 o'clock, so I'm not sure everything that's still going on. Am I missing something here, anybody? All right. Okay. All right. Well, then let's just commit this service to the Lord. Father, we ask you just to receive our worship right now from our hearts. Not just the song from the lips, but our focus on that message and our proclamation to you, to who you are, and to the wonder and the greatness of our relationship that we have because of your Son, Jesus Christ, and his death on the cross. And Father, you freely offer to us that forgiveness that is ours to accept and to become your children. And we are here to celebrate that, to encourage one another, and again, Father, to just serve you here this morning. And so I just pray that this type of worship will be sweet to your ears, Lord. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Let's stand together, please.
But my flesh is so weak.
was a wonderful memorial service that you all got to participate in, but there was one that happened a little further away from here. Billy Graham was laid to rest, and this particular song, as I picked it out, I was thinking about us coming to the Lord, and I was thinking what a joyous time that must have been for Billy Graham to see his Savior. And I hope you're longing for that time yourself. Just trust that you're prepared, and that you're longing for that moment where you see your Savior. Let's sing the first, the second, and the fourth verses. Just as I am without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bidst me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come. Just as I am, and waiting not to rid my soul of what I want, to thee whose blood and cleansing just as I am, thou wilt receive, will welcome, pardon, and cleanse me, because thy promise I And you know, when the Lord meets us, and when He wants us to enter into a relationship with us, as we learned in our Sunday school lesson this morning, He's not looking for those offerings or even that service that we do. He's looking for our heart. He wants us to be fully surrendered. He just wants us to be fully trusting in Him, yielding our will to His. I'm going to invite you to stand as we sing this final song. And it expresses that in a powerful way. And I trust, Lord, that is the cry of your heart. You are Lord, your Savior. Give it all. I give you my life. I give you my trust. Jesus, you are my God.
may be seated.
Good morning, church family. Oh my goodness, that was weak. Good morning, church family. That's what I'm talking about. All right, guys, just a couple of quick announcements, or quite a bit of announcements here. We got a busy week coming up here. First off, tomorrow night we will be having the boys' sports Bible study over at Berea Bible Church. That'll be at 6 o'clock again. That's for anybody that wants to be involved. Just let me know, and we can hook you up in that ministry. Also, Berean Bible Church, this Friday, there will be life-size board games for the teenagers. So me and Aaron have been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and I completely forgot about it until I came home and saw it on my schedule. But we are going to be doing some life-size board games. That's going to be at Aaron's church at 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. on Friday night. We're going to be doing life-size Clue. We're going to be doing battleships. That should be a lot of fun. If you know any teenagers that would like to get involved, give me a call, and we can definitely get them over there and just have a good time with that. Also, Saturday will be the outreach to Honey Creek. That's going to be at 2 p.m. here at the church. We're going to plan and prepare probably from 2 to probably about 2:15. Then we're going to try to leave around 2:15, go to Honey Creek, hand out some cookies, some information about the church, a couple of different things on that. We'll try to finish up probably before 3:30, so you can kind of schedule your day there. Also, I do need cookies for that event. I need cookies personally, but I also need cookies for that event as well. So if anybody would like to bake cookies for the outreach, I need 5 dozen. I also need 5 dozen personally sent to my house, but we can take care of that separately. I need around 5 dozen cookies. If you would like to bake cookies for that, please let me know so we can have that prepared as well. Any other announcements that I'm missing? Anything you guys can think of? All right, that was your opportunity to talk. So I'm taking that away from you. Now we're going to go ahead and have the ushers come forward. We'll have the children go down for children's church. Also, if you normally work on a worksheet and you don't go to children's church, we're not going to have a worksheet today because we're going to have a lot of pictures and a lot of stories about Mexico. So the worksheets will start again next week, but we won't have one for today. Now our ushers are coming forward. We'll go ahead and ask God to bless the offering here. So let's bow for a word of prayer. Kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we're just so thankful for everything that you do, Lord. God, we just thank you for this time of worship. We just thank you again for the opportunity to give back a little bit what you've provided to us, Lord. We just pray that we will concentrate our hearts on you, Lord, and everything will be towards you. Lord, we pray that we use this offering for your glory and your honor. We pray all these things in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen.
Try to fit you in the walls inside my mind. I try to keep you safely in between the lines. I try to put you in the box that I designed. I try to pull you down so we are eye to eye. When did I forget that you've always been the king of the world? I try to take life back right out of the hands of the king of the world. How could I make you so small when you're the one who holds it all? When did I forget that you've always been the king of the world?
It is good to be back, and I'm going to ask, do we have everybody up here that went to the Mexico mission trip right now? If you guys can move up and sit on the front row, we're going to keep you down there while we show the slides and everything, but if I can get everybody up here so when we're ready to do the testimonies that you guys will be ready in the first couple of pews. I want to tell you, it is very nice to be back. We appreciate the prayers. I know we're going to be talking a little bit about our thankfulness to you as a church, to be in there, to be praying for us, the support that you showed. I mean, this was a Colonial Baptist Church family missions trip. And we were the hands and feet, and you guys are the ones holding the ropes for us as we were out there serving. You were praying for us. One thing that I really appreciated in the answers to prayers, obviously we were praying for the family that we were going to be ministering to down there. We were going to be building a house for, but we're also praying for the hearts of everybody who went on the trip, and for God to be able to do something. And I'm not going to be sharing a lot when it gets to be testimony time, so I'll just share this. Now, one thing that really stood out to me, and I got thinking about this yesterday, the mission trip was difficult. I mean, we got up by between 7:30 and 8. We were heading out to the site, and from the pictures you're going to see, I mean, it's like building a house out in the desert. And we were thankful that the temperatures were cooler this year than last year. The last day we were in I think in the mid 80s, but all last year we were in the 90s the whole week. But you know, for most of us, we were doing work all week that we don't normally do. Very physical work, construction work up on the ladders, those sorts of things. And it can be very trying. And it can be very difficult. And you know, we're going to be talking about a lot of praise and cool things that God did down there. But he also tested us and tried us and our patience. And I think the travel day coming back, Friday, was kind of Satan's last effort at us. We took off, we got up at 5 in the morning, we took off about 6 o'clock, walked across the border, and actually then picked up our transportation on the other side. We were in a 15-passenger van and a truck that held all of our luggage and everything. And we took off, and there was one of our tires that was showing the cords on the side of it. It hit something. We were kind of concerned about it, but the owner of the van kind of thought that it could make it. So we got about 2 hours into the trip out there, and we blew a tire. But it wasn't that tire. It was a whole totally different tire. And when we went to change it, we did not have all the tools necessary to change the tire. And so we're kind of on a deadline, you know, to get into the airport and for our flight and everything. And we're trying to figure it out. We got a hold of the truck, they got turned around, and they caught up to us. They didn't have a tire iron that fixed. And it was so cool because we're just about to call AAA, and a police officer pulled behind us. And we asked him if he had a tire iron, and he said, no, he didn't. And I said, well, wait a minute. He said, this isn't my normal squad car. He said, let me go check. And he went back there, and he had the exact tire iron that we needed. We were able to get the lug nuts off. We were able to get it changed. But in the midst of all of that, I mean, you know, the group could have fallen apart. I mean, it was kind of like the last kick, you know, as we're leaving Mexico and leaving the mission trip. But it always seems that we were able to pick one another up. And something happened when the tire blew. I don't know if we hit one of the lines or something, but we think something was dripping on the exhaust, which was sending heat and fumes up through the back. And you know, the ones who volunteered to sit in the back, it was stifling hot in the back, but they willingly went back there, and they had good attitudes. And I mean, it could have ended the trip, you know, very poorly. But I really appreciate it, because I think that's something that God's doing in our heart. We're always going to have trials. We're always going to have, you know, difficulties in the things of our life, and I appreciate that, you know, how this group pulled together, and they did it all week, you know, when we hit situations like that. We're going to show you a lot of pictures of the family, the house, and the project of what we did. But before we actually do that, I want to talk to you about last year. Last year, we went down there. Again, I think we had 14 last year that went down on the missions trip. And we built a house in the same subdivision that we were, you know, in the same circumstances that we were. And we built the house for a family, and then you kind of leave. We had the house, I'd say, about 95% done by the time we left. And then you kind of turn the house over, and you know it's gone, and you don't know really what God did with it. And you know that the family got it and received it. We got a chance to meet the family, but we had a chance towards the end of the week. We made a connection with the family again, and I'm horrible at their names and everything. Can anybody remember Andre? Okay, Andre was the father. The mother was. Anyone remember the mother's name? Karma. Okay. They're a Mexican family. Anyway, if you remember, she was pregnant, and they already had 2 children, and she was pregnant. She had her, I think it was 5-6 month old, there with her, and they brought it over. They were just so excited to see us. They came over to our work site that we were working on, and we had a great time reconnecting them in fellowship. And then when we got done working that day, we went back over to their house because we kind of wanted to see it, and kind of what was done. And go ahead, let's show some of the pictures here. This is from last year. This is the family. This is Andre. This is at the site when they came over and visited us. This is his wife, and there was a newborn that they had. All right, go ahead, next picture. Okay, this is close to the newborn with Maddie. Of course, she has the child with her. All right, let's do another picture. Okay, this is out at the house. This was their son, if you remember that. And one more picture. Okay, so this is the first thing. The coolest thing about this, and I tell you, if you went on the trip last year and you weren't able to go on this year, I mean, it was so neat to see how they made this house their home. I mean, you see the sand out there. This is a desert. But the personal touches that they had brought to this, I mean, really, if you look at the house is about 600 square foot. It's metal, it's got small bedrooms in it, but just the great pride that they took and the thankfulness that they had, this Christian family of what God provided for them. You can't see it, but in the very corner over there, you see some plants that are planted, and then in the back from that, they have a fenced-in area, and she planted roses in the desert, and she was watering them, and there was one rose that was as big as my fist, and I mean, it was beautiful out there in the middle of that desert, and she got such great pride in it. That shed to the right there last year, because you guys provided so much, so much giving that we had extra resources for the project to pay for the house. That is his candy shop that he makes candy in. And go ahead and go to the next picture. I think we have a picture of the inside of that. And so this is the inside of the shop. If you remember, he makes candies, and then he goes to the border, and as people are crossing the border, that's how he makes his living. He sells these candies, homemade candies, to people as they're crossing the borders. And it was so cool to see that, and he made some candy for us, and he showed us kind of how it was done and everything. But behind that, they have 3 goats, and they are milking the goats and using the milk then to make the candy. They had chickens, and it was just so exciting to see. And if God provides that we go back again next year, we're just excited to see what this family that this year would use to make that difference in their life. Because sometimes you wonder, did it matter? I mean, it was a blip on our radar, a week of our lives, and it changed their lives. And they're a wonderful Christian couple, and they're very active. If you remember last year while we were down there building their house, one of the neighbors came over and wanted to see if we wanted to hire him to help, and we were able to do that because of that we had some extra money, and had him come and stay overnight to guard the tools and everything, and that man started going to church. And so there's so many things that God was doing there, and I'm just excited for next year to see again what God has done with what we have laid at the cross before Him. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the loop. We've got a bunch of pictures, and I think we have it to music. And when they're done, then we're going to call the group up, and not everyone in the group is going to share because it's such a large group, but we have a group, about half the group is going to share some things that God has done. So Matt, when you're ready, go ahead and get that converted over.
the Extreme Makeover Mexico edition. We've been here for a week. We've been working on a house. You saw the slab before we left. And this is where we are 1 week later. Ready? Move that fast! Move that fast! Move that fast! Move that fast! Ta-da!
¿Quién rompe el poder del pecado? Su amor es fuerte y poderoso, el Rey de gloria, el Rey de majestad. Conmueve al mundo con su estruendo y nos asombra con maravillas. El Rey de gloria, el Rey de majestad. Gracias sublime es, perfecto es tu amor. Tomaste mi lugar, cargaste tú mi cruz, tu vida diste ahí. Y ahora libre soy. Oh, Jesús, te adoro por lo que hiciste en mí. Oh, oh, oh. Pusiste en orden todo el caos, nos adoptaste como tus hijos, el Rey de gloria, el Rey de majestad, el que gobierna con su justicia y resplandece con su belleza, el Rey de gloria, el Rey de majestad. Oh, gracias sublime es, perfecto es tu amor. Tomaste mi lugar, cargaste tú mi cruz, tu vida diste ahí. Y ahora libre soy. Oh, Jesús, te adoro por lo que hiciste en mí. Digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció. Digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció. Digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno es el Rey que la muerte venció. Digno es el Cordero de Dios, digno, digno, digno. Gracias sublime es, perfecto es tu amor. Tomaste mi lugar,
Y de repente ya no recuerdo mi aflicción eclipsada en gloria. Me doy cuenta de cuán hermoso eres tú y cuán grande es tu afecto por mí. Oh, Él nos ama, cuánto Él nos ama, Él nos ama,
I don't know if you can make out that slide there. That is what we signed our names in the middle of the wall of this home. And it says, with love from Colonial Baptist Church. And we all signed our names before we enclosed that wall. And it was just kind of just a way for us to remember, hey, we made our own mark on this wall, in this house, in this family. And like Pastor said, we really thank you for the contribution that you all made on this trip in making it possible. Not only for your prayers, but also for financial support, which was right in God's timing, and it was enough that we needed, and even more so. So thank you very much for supporting us with that. And I just wanted to say, from Colonial Baptist Church, I'm proud to be in a church that really focuses on missions and even short-term missions. And there's a lot of benefit that comes from our short-term mission. And I just want to touch on that just a little bit. Why do we do short-term missions? Well, first of all, we're making a difference in someone else's life. Jesus said, "What you've done to the least of these, you've done for me." And we really help this family. I don't know if I don't think we mentioned it, but the family, the father is a contractor, but he doesn't have money to even build his own home. So we really help them. We also it's good for us to leave our own comfort zone and what we're used to in our own culture and everything, and get to see other people whose needs are much greater than ours, and even to see their attitudes with contentment, even though they seriously need lots of things. Even Andres, the man who last year's home, he didn't get electricity for several months until after we left, and he still doesn't have running water in his house. So they do everything from their water tank. The other thing that was really a neat blessing is to see how our group came together in unity, and it's neat to see how we can develop as a church body because we're doing things together and serving together. And then in a personal way, we can deepen our own walk and develop our own ministry and deepen that further through missions work. And then lastly, and I guess there are other benefits too, but we are a real encouragement to those believers down there when we come down and help out. And I just commend you guys as a church. It's not just us. We were fully backed by you guys, and we benefited from your prayers. We benefited from the finances that you helped, and we just consider it a blessing to be part of this, and a blessing to be part of a church that comes together for something like this, and it makes a big difference. And I just want to give you the thanks for that.
All right. One quick thing to mention, in the video at the start of it, when we kind of did move that van, how many times did it take us? The van kept getting stuck in the sand and burying itself in the sand, and we had to all push it out, and we repositioned it again, and the van just wouldn't move. So we're thankful that that was able to come together. All right, Jared, where's Jared? Jared. All right.
So I have a lot of things that were, overall, the whole trip was amazing. It's a good experience. My favorite thing about the trip was, I think it was Wednesday night, we got back to the church that we were staying at, and they had a church service or a meeting type thing. And all the kids came out, and there was a bunch of teenage kids. And there was a guy who played the guitar, a guy who played the drums, and they all came out. And there was a soccer ball laying around the area. I never thought I'd see Mr. Cross run around with the kids playing soccer as much as he did, and he broke their ankles. I mean, that was kind of funny. There's many times he hit the ground, and he still got back up. And I think it was fun playing with the kids that were there. And I was talking to the cousin of the family, and he will. I don't know exactly what he said, but he was using his hand motions, and he said, helping us, he was learning a little bit of English, so he spoke fluently Spanish, and I knew what he was saying, he was using his hand motions and stuff, and me, Jonathan, and somebody else was talking with him, and he said, hearing you guys talk is helping me speak a little English, and they all came out smiling, even though they live in these little sheds, I guess, called. And then they all come out smiling and stuff, and they were all into help. It was like motivating, I guess, because you're building this house, and then all these people are coming around and smiling and talking to us. Even though they couldn't talk English, they were still attempting to talk, which was nice. And it just made it a whole lot easier to go. Yes. And well, I had a lot of fun. Hope to go next year.
All right. Yeah, and one thing we learned is Tim is just amazing. He played Tuesday night, he played Ultimate Frisbee with the boys until about 11 o'clock at night. And the next morning, he couldn't move his shoulder. And so so he's dealing with that all day. And would he learn his lesson? No. Wednesday, what they're talking about, we're sitting inside. It's a whole big glass area that you can see outside. And we're sitting inside and we see Tim come out to the porch and he's watching them kids play soccer. I thought, he's going to do it. He just can't stop himself. Next thing you know, he was tying his shoes and putting them on, and he was out there playing with them. And he had endless energy after working all day. And, so we appreciate that, because that kind of challenged each one of us to maybe have just a little bit more energy. All righty, Rose.
Thank you. Ooh. Hey, I tell you, my first trip to Mexico, and to work on a house, I mean, it was different and it was exciting and fun, I tell you. I mean, as old as I am, and I still could bend down, you probably saw a picture of me bending down and holding up things. But, I learned new things. I was impressed of working with different workers, like Martha, Tim, Josh, Pastor Josh, and a lot of boys, they give me a new name, Mama Rose, they call me, I put in insulation, and I had fun doing that with Pastor Josh and Maddie and a couple of other ones. And one of them, came out, bulged out, and Pastor Josh said, that needs an operation. Well, I put my back and pushed the back end, went in. I said, okay, there's the operation of that going back in. Yeah. You know, and I had fun. Training gun. Oh, you know. You know. At first time I did that, you know, but didn't go in the first time. Martha said, try it again, you know, do it again. That's okay, you know. Hey, I had fun learning, you know, different things and sanding the walls. And like Greg said, you know, we all worked together as a team. And that was a blessing. Thank you.
Rose is great. We went all the way down to Mexico so she could teach us how to speak German. and taught us a song in German to sing, which we still can't get out of our, oh no, don't play it, Tim. It was the whole week.
Nobody want to hear the song?
No, yeah.
All right, we're going to do a duet.
Okay.
Ready?
Mein Hut, der hat Dreiecke, Dreiecke hat mein Hut. Und hätt nicht Dreiecke, dann wär's auch nicht mein Hut.
Of course, you all remember that worship song, My Hat That Has Three Corners. That is the song. They just sang for us. All righty, Tim, I'm going to give it to you.
How do I follow that? Oh my. The trip, having been to Mexico a couple of other times, this trip was quite a bit different in many regards. The first thing that really stood out to me as I reflected upon the trip was that as we went together, we went down as individual peoples with particular identities, and we knew each other as Pastor Josh and Mama Rose and different people. But as the week went on, we were just all brothers and sisters working with a common goal, and we didn't see each other in the same way. And we became close in ways that I can't really describe, and I don't know unless you experience it. It's kind of like when you become a grandfather, you're a whole different person. And you can't really describe it, and same way for a grandmother too, you know. But it was life-changing from that perspective, in that I won't be the same with these people ever again. Second thing that really struck me immensely was that the area where we were was an area of about 160,000 people. And in the past, when we went down on trips, we were in an area that wasn't nearly as populated. And it seemed like there were areas that were more like what we would see here in America, and then there were some areas that were a little less developed, and then there were some poor areas. This area here, south of the town, south of the canal there, was just like the pastor said, it was like a desert. It really was. And it was in a lovely place situated between the recycling plant and where they burn all the garbage. And so basically you have this area that's just a wasteland, and then the government was selling it to people between $3,000 and $5,000 a lot for this piece of sand. And as you looked and saw all these little divided off, fenced in areas here, and it just went on for miles, and you could just see it for going on and on and on. It just, the reality of the state of these individuals just really struck me in a very powerful way. But then as I looked at that, and I saw, we would drive in every morning, we would see people up and about doing their daily tasks, their chores. Some of them were sticking straw back up on their roof, and some of them were chasing their dog, or chasing a dog out of their property, or hanging clothes out, or doing whatever they were doing. And it really struck me that at first I thought, my, they're just surviving. And yet, we would go by the next day and they would still be there and they would be doing their routine, and I thought, how is that any different from us? what's the difference? We have a life. We have the same 24 hours in a day that they do. And what are we doing with them? And as was already said, I believe that many of the people that we drove past were much more contented in their spirit, though they had so much less. And the other thing that really stuck out to me regarding this same thing was when they had their worship service, this was like the highlight of their week. I mean, everything built toward that. You saw the girls up front, the rhythmic dance girls that were singing and dancing. They practiced 3 times a week to prepare for that worship service, for that worship. I think that the musicians practice at least 2 times a week to prepare for the worship service. And when they were there, we were only in the service for part of it because when it got time for the actual message, we didn't have a translator. We weren't going to understand all of that. But I would imagine their service would go on for 2.5 hours, and there wasn't anybody looking at their watch wondering when it was going to be over. This was the highlight of their week. I thought, wow, could we learn something? And I guess the last thing I learned was when you are in the midst of serving the Lord, you're exhausted, playing too much soccer and stuff like that, but you're tired and you've done all of this. It was during the midst of all that when I least expected that I found myself awake at 4:30 in the morning and was able to go outside and sit out in the covered area, and God just brought to my mind each individual that was in our group and just a specific thought to pray for them. Now, I can't imagine that I've ever spent time praying for these particular people, and certainly not in the solitude in that moment, and certainly not at 4:30 in the morning sitting outside someplace. But being in the midst of God's plan and God's work and His purpose for me for that moment, there was a time that I didn't expect, and that was some of the most intimate time with God that I had the whole time I was down there. And we did have opportunities to connect with some people out in the community as well. There was a gentleman out when we were out in the shopping area that we were able to talk with. There was somebody in the airport we were able to talk with and share faith in Christ. And there was a gentleman that we met who was a Christian. Had a nice conversation with him. Did not know. He did speak a good bit of English. I learned more Spanish than German, just to let you know. So.
Thank you. So we work together, constantly. And when we were here, when we're here at church, we see each other and we know each other. Like Tim was saying, we have different identities. And I worked with Pastor first, so I took the most difficult part and I got it out of the way. And then I worked with him first. He's actually very good to work with because he knows what he wants, he tells you what he wants, and he wants to be one step ahead. And it's just like working with my dad. So I was able to work really well with Pastor. Well then...
Your dad young?
There's many differences between you and my dad. But then after that, I got to work with Craig. And when I finished working with Pastor, we were doing the roofing together. We were just like making the frames for it. Well, once I got done with that, I was like, all right, well, I need to find something else to do. So I just walked in and I saw Craig was working there and I thought, I wonder what Craig's doing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And so Craig's like, have you ever done drywall before? And I'm like, sort of, a little bit. And he's like, well, do you want to work on this? I'm like, yeah, why not? So I work with Craig, and like I said, you don't really know each other. Well, Craig got to see everything that makes me frustrated and how I react when I'm frustrated. So we're putting up the drywall and everything, and I'm getting so angry at myself because nothing is working. So the next day I'm like, I'm going to go in with a good attitude. I need to have a good attitude when I start this. I know what I'm getting myself into now. I just need to get that out of the way. The next day, I go in there, and if you haven't noticed, my topic is trials and tribulations. So Martha and Jerry had been working on this wall, And once you get the house built, you've got the whole outside going, now you're working on the inside. It's very hard to move because everybody's in the house at the same time. So poor Martha and Jerry had been working on this small little wall. It's not even it's maybe 3 foot wide, okay? And it's put together with other small wall. This is where Satan really decided to try me. So I go in there and I'm supposed to put the drywall on these 2 walls. I measure it again, measure it about 3 times. There's also a little light switch box. So I measure that, I do everything, what I'm supposed to. I go cut the piece and everything. I get the light switch box measured perfectly. You can ask any one of these people. They know it was pristine. I go to put the wall up, and I'm away from the corner a good 4 inches. There's nothing to drill the wall into now, because I'm that far away from the corner. And I'm like, there's no way. I measured this. So then I measure again. I'm like, how on earth does this not fit? So I'm getting really frustrated. And then Bethany comes, and I told them, Bethany Carson is an oasis in a desert. She comes by and she's like, Liz, what's going on? So I say all of this to say, we all started working together, and Bethany comes and she completely turns the situation around. She can pick something up, she's like Tim, she can pick something up, works the first time. She can do something, she gets it perfect the first time. Me, I've been fighting with this wall for at least a good 3 hours, and she gets this, she's like, okay, we're done, let's just, find something else to do. I'm like, how on earth did you just walk up here and get it done? I've been doing this for 3 hours. So we all started working together, and it made us realize that we know how to get frustrated, but we also knew how to lift each other up. And Bethany was extremely encouraging, and Craig was the same way. He didn't get irritated with me when I did the wrong thing 1,000 times. And when you work together that long, it gets really easy to get frustrated with each other. But God really provided the right people at the right time to really help keep the project moving along. And even when I was completely convinced that Satan was really trying to steal my joy, I brought Martha in and we prayed over the wall. We were like, this wall has seriously just caused a big blip in everything. But we really were able to come together and work for a common goal, and I knew that God had provided the people for that mission and to be able to provide the spiritual needs that you needed in that moment. So, yeah, that's my long story.
She's right when she says it gets tighter. It's really easy the first day because you got the whole desert to work with. There's a cement pad that you can build your wall on. You can build it on the sand. But as the walls get up and the insulation gets put on and the interior walls get in, it gets smaller and smaller. And what I appreciated was everybody's flexibility. There were only, 5 ladders? Do we have 5 ladders? 5 ladders, but I'm sorry. People are working on the roof. They're working on the drywall. Craig was the head of the drywall team, and I watched Joel and I watched him trying to put this drywall up for, I can't tell you how long it took, because you're drilling into metal studs above your head and nothing fits. And so I just appreciated everybody's flexibility because every job was important, and those 5 ladders were never available. Somebody was always that had a more important job was doing it. And so the drywall at the top couldn't get sanded because there were no, you're standing on buckets turned upside down. And I just appreciated everybody's flexibility. It stretched us all, but I thought it was a good thing.
I just wanted to say one other thing. Have you ever heard of the term self-tapping screws? That's where the screw is supposed to dig itself into the stud and drive itself in just because it's spinning there. Well, we have a lot of those that were supposed to be self-tapping screws, but there is no such thing as a self-tapping screw down in Mexico, I don't believe.
Before I say my part, I just wanted to give you an update. We had an update on the 2017 family, an update on the 2015 family. That when Jonathan and I went down first. We got to see Anna again, and she was a single mom we built a house for. in 2015. One of the things, we got an update then on that family, which was kind of cool. We still have this connection so many years later. One of the things that we did that year, when we came back, we told you about Angel, the oldest son, who is getting ready to go in high school in Mexico. That is about the time that the kids in this area drop out of school because you have to pay for high school and they can't afford it. So that's when they start working in the fields, is high school age. And our church provided funding for Angel to go to high school. I guess he was in high school at the time. And he will be graduating in June from high school, which is quite an accomplishment for a family in their situation. And he will be taking the exams to go to university. That is his goal. So I thought that really made a tremendous difference in that young man's life from a few years ago. So let me give you my little thing on this trip. I wrote it down because I was having such trouble coming up with the words as I was practicing it last night. This was a really difficult trip for me. It came at a time when I was already very overwhelmed with responsibilities. It was really difficult to arrange for those responsibilities to be covered while I was gone. I'm not very skilled in construction. I just don't even understand it very well. So I was questioning even before if I should go, and while I was there, I was still questioning if I should have gone. I thought someone else would do better than me. I don't understand construction. This is the 5th house I've worked on, and I still don't get it very well. There's someone surely who understands it better than me. There's someone who's stronger than me who could have gone. There are lots of people who are more encouraging than me. That's not even something I'm good at. So I was really questioning if I should have even gone on this trip. But I understood God's purpose afterwards. Jonathan had talked with the father. The father had prayed for 3 things. And he told Jonathan that one at a time, God had provided each. These are the 3 things he prayed for. The first thing he prayed for was food, so he could feed his family. The second thing was a truck, so he could get to work and earn money to provide for his family. The third thing was shelter, a home for his family. He told Jonathan that God had used us to answer his last prayer for a home. Sometimes we don't know why God asks us to do something. We just obey. He asks who will go, and we say, "Here am I, send me." But sometimes the work is hard, or discouraging, or both. 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, "Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain." That was the lesson I learned this year. It took a few examples like that to help me learn it. I'm still learning it. We were what God used to answer the prayer of a father who just wanted to take care of his family. And that family was so excited to see the house. Jonathan told me after lifting metal onto the roof for a little while with Luis, their oldest son, Jonathan and Luis went inside to get into the shade for a break. And as Luis stood in what would become his bedroom, he just looked around and he told Jonathan, "Isn't it beautiful?" He was so excited to have a bedroom. The whole family was just so excited to have that house. You know, we have been blessed to be a blessing. And another thing Jonathan told me as he was standing there with Luis in that bedroom, Jonathan realized his bedroom was twice the size of Luis's bedroom. And what Jonathan told the father and Luis was that God had blessed us, and we can now bless our brothers and sisters in Christ. To hear that my son could receive that kind of perspective from this experience is also a blessing. So we have been blessed to be a blessing, and the blessing returns to us again.
All right, and just to let you know, us going back next year, we pretty much determine on if we have people who are committed, to be able to go back. It will probably be around this time, sometime in March next year that we go. So if you guys want to be thinking ahead of time, I know for some of you it would be vacation that you would have to take, you would have to plan. But we are looking to continue this. The one final thing that I don't know is just such a blessing is that Larry and Rose, Larry was a lay pastor for so many years. I talked to him, he said this was the first missions trip that they've ever been on. What a blessing. What a blessing. And again, the same people can't go back every time, especially adults, because it is very difficult. I know you're taking vacation and you're away from your work and your job. And so we need others, to step up, because next year it probably will not be the same people that can go. And last year, different people went. And so be praying right now, as we come up for this, just consider this to be part of your life and part of your spiritual growth and part of what Christ wants to do, in your life. And, getting in a different environment, getting in a different culture, getting away from that routine that we just, so easily fall into. It seems that God can, in that climate, God seems to be able to get a hold of our hearts. So what we're going to do to close, we're going to ask you all to stand. We're going to sing the family of God. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by his blood, joined heirs with Jesus as we travel this side. I'm part of the family of God. And we're going to sing that as our closing prayer and thankfulness to God, and we'll be dismissed after that. All right, let's sing it together.
I'm so glad